equally fascinating. See where the Galio goes in this draft, because it feels like Galio really did vindicate first pick status for Afreeca Freecs.
Oh, yes. And will SKT actually be the ones to ban it away on the blue side as well? Because when they first picked it in the past, historically so far this season, it hasn't gone so well.
It's gotten better recently because they can profit off Blossom's aggression, but Blossom was well neutralized. The Skarner wasn't able to pull off any engages in this fight, and when he did, a gargoyle was soon to follow, so it did not happen for him there because of the Galio pick. Already an Azir ban coming through from Afreeca.
Yep. Skarner actually going to be respected by SKT.
A blue side Skarner ban, another champion that Mowgli's been practicing in solo queue. So the premium on something like Sejuani does jump up with a ban like that. So what Afreeca's take is here on how to halt SK Telecom T1. Way the Galio.
Thinking about Kalista and things like that as well, as that's going to be the rise banned away by Afreeca, not wanting to let Faker get his hands on that particular champion.
They would just love another game where Faker is able to farm up a Storm, but team comp-wise was constricted from really being able to dictate the game like a 4-item Corki usually represents. But maybe Afreeca are happy to draft Corki into Galio themselves, as we're going to see the Taliyah banned away against Kuro. Taliyah being very important this week, and in recent match days as the Weaver's Wall objective play has gotten cleaner and cleaner from our teams in Korea.
Do you think maybe SKT looking at something like a Zoe first pick here, potentially? Taliyah has been one of those champions that's gone quite well into the Zoe, and a lot of mid lane picks have been taken off the board.
The Galio is the one that's there to talk about. Now SKT, if they do want to go for Zoe, it will be into a Galio. Galio can usually power through, so Galio is the correct blind pick on the blue side. I believe this will provoke Corki from Kuro. I mean, Kuro has lost the reverse matchup to Faker before. I think he might actually just draft himself into it, try to farm away on the Corki. Triple Trinity Force from Afreeca has been a very common strategy for them in 2018.
Could be once again the Lovers duo on the bottom side of the map for aiming and Tucson if they want to pick it up. But Mowgli getting a lot of priority here on the red side, much like SKT were giving to Blossom when they were on red.
Want to deny some of the reliable initiators away from the Galio. The Zack's still available, but a little bit more time invested to turn on that particular combo compared to the Sejuani. Just throwing out the ultimate, much more non-committal from the Sejuani. We'll see the Kalista taken. The Zyra Khan, like you say, still available, still very likely to be picked up by Bang & Wolf, but Blossom, for now, just hovering his famous Rengar. He is a Rengar Kha'Zix 2-trick from solo queue.
Yeah. Does like to complete the quest against himself, as that joke, I believe, has been made a couple of times so far.
And yet you still made it again.
Oh, yeah, of course. Always going to fall into that trap. Afreeca, a few options here, though, as the Varus is going to be taken away, and I like it here from SKT. But Afreeca can just pick up the Kuro special, which is the Malzahar, that he loved picking into the Galio, and was actually one of the first people to discover that that's a really great way of playing the Galio matchup. But Blossom's going to have the dream here, the J4 is being hovered, and even more pick potential with the Varus for Bang. SKT, the bouncy castle is at the ready.
Yeah, the Galio and the Zac was the duo we saw on blue side in game one. This time we see the Jarvan, which is an even better skirmishing version of the same thing. So not as crazy as the game goes on. If Afreeca want Corki, they have to take it now. So I think Kuro will be jumping on the reverse side of the matchup, and then SKT will probably have to invest their bans into the ideal supports to complement the Fate's call on the Kalista.
Yeah. Thankfully, support is being looked for from Wolf as well, and he'd really like to be able to grab something like an Alistar, like a Rakan that can really help Faker get in towards the backline like Kuro was able to. So you best bet that they are going to have a few of those bans to come in.
The first ban will actually be here towards the side of SKT. It's going to be the Tark, so not going to be looking to allow them to go for the full teamfight dream comp and on demand be able to be invincible when they choose their hero's entrance initiation. Where Braum goes in this draft is very interesting for me to track. Usually when we see a Kalista, you want some safety, so it's usually something like a Thresh or a Tahm Kench. But the Rakan is also a very big possibility for Tucson to jump on for a second game in a row. SKT don't seem too concerned. They know they can't ban away 3, 4, 5 supports to remove there being a good idea to pair with the Kalista, so they're going to go for the top lane ball. First ban on the Cho'Gath. So one super tank off the board.
Yep, Nas still standing out like a bit of a sore thumb here as far as that top lane pull is concerned. Keen played it 7 times, Untara played it 6 times, and everything else Untara's played he's only played once as well. So certainly could be a priority, and that is going to be banned away.
If I look at this draft so far, with a Cho'Gath ban on blue side and now Gnar taken away, it seems like Untara is set up for a Vladimir in this game to go into the back line.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And potentially just be able to answer the 2 threats, and they need more damage to complement the Galio. So that's my read on the Cho'Gath blue side ban and what has eventually happened. One safe pick is removed. Now you would expect there to be something like the Thresh drafted by Afreeca. Will we see Vladimir into Sion as a top lane matchup, as that would really just make it so difficult for Kuro and aiming to find good positioning in a fight?
And I really want to see Tucson pick up the Thresh here. I mean, he's played it only once so far this season. He got an 8.0 KDA, something like that in that game. The man was picking people off left, right, and center. And as you mentioned,
we bouncing.
Yeah, works extraordinarily well with the Callista, but that's an Alistair, and yeah, we are so far into the bouncy castle right now. My goodness. We're going to have the Cataclysm set up, and then Hero's Entrance comes down, the Pulverize is in there. It's like the cow is in this paddock of destruction.
So they turn it around. The Vladimir was a very real choice here. They will actually go to the Trundle and look for the split push against the Sion. It gives them another option. It is also the pillar in the back line to complement all of the knockups. So it's another way to guarantee the initiation short of a Camille that was banned away in this game. So they don't go for only team fight. I mean, Vladimir does represent split push as well, but Hemoplague will be on that side, and going to be a defensive choice here. It isn't the Thresh. They're not looking for playmaking now that they see the Trundle. They go for the Braum to try to give them an option against the Varus engage on the bot side.
Yeah, and still is a duo that we've spoken about a lot, but I'm not as much of a fan of it just because Tucson was so flashy last time we saw him on the Thresh. But I like this from SKT, sort of stepping away from what is the let's all jump in composition with that bouncy castle that we've seen so many times used to such great effect. In fact, debuting this season by Kongu Monster, who looked brilliant.
Excited to see how lane trades go between the Trundle and the Sion. Sion a lot of early damage and obviously super tanky. We've seen Ornn beat the Trundle in the 1v1 when Tal was playing it for SKT. This time it's Untara jumping on to the Trundle. See how the lane trades go against the Sion, because we know what he wants to do. It's all about making this into a 4-1 game, and then the inevitable collapse of all the initiation for SKT.
Yeah, and the really scary thing for the Afreeca Freecs here is that they've just let SKT have exactly what they just beat SKT with in game number 1, basically. So
definitely similar. I feel like the spirit is a little bit different just because Trundle is so far in the split push versus the team fight. But it is a similar construction. Can Afreeca win with their own construction and then beat it as well? That would be a statement against SKT.
Yeah, statement against a team that has been looking so much better. We know the coaching staff are incredible, and we'll see whether they can bring us to game number 3 as we hit the rip for game 2 right now. Crowd all in unison for SKT, wanting to see us here in our first series for as long as possible, and we've got so many fans in the audience, they want their money's worth.
We were right on our prediction, by the way. The crowd has filled in. We have a nice full house here, the Sangam East Stadium, for what should be very hype matches. There's Achilles on the screen.
Oh my goodness, who's that guy?
Yes,
I think I've seen him before.
He did shoot at the crowd. The other people there, the other global people there are actually from the Canadian Winter Olympics coverage team.
You said it.
I did. That cultural event that's now over.
No.
It's over now.
Oh, okay, that's
it was
that's
in
why
the
you're allowed
past.
to. There was a Winter Olympics at one point. I think you were talking to the one 4 years prior.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the one.
Shh, don't say it too many more times.
I didn't.
We're going to run out of mentions of that word.
I just like how today you're the one saying the naughty words instead of me. It's like, yeah, see that the trades work out quite well for the Sion early game. As long as you can make sure Untara is always face-checking into the Decimating Smash.
Man, Untara took a lot of damage in game number 1.
Yes, he did.
Oh, Sion. The zeros are so depressing.
I
On
know.
the head-to-head. Good game, Blossom. Didn't do anything.
Yeah, he placed 80 wards.
Both of them had 0 kill percentage. Participation at 15 minutes, so not the best reading. But now we see the reverse matchup, which has so often been a Faker-focused point, where Faker would win both sides of a matchup and school a team out of existence.
This is one of the picks that Kuro's been much more confident on, though. You can see he's already playing very far up in that lane. Zeus is going to land the Winter Spite. Wolf not going to get stunned up. Afreeca Freecs just playing this one back. Now it's Aiming's turn to let Bang and Wolf know that he's not scared of them, because his Callista, last time we saw it against KSV, was ridiculous. So it shows that pedigree of his opponent isn't something that bothers Aiming at all, because World Champion, I think, is pretty good as far as adding to the Death Note.
And Atlas, this is a momentous day. We have a game with no spellbooks. None. Whoa! Even Tucson doesn't have a spellbook. He is, of course, the master of the unsealed spellbook on every champion.
I thought he actually had that one just locked and couldn't actually do anything else.
And we've seen him teleport Glacial Fissure someone to death, so we know that he runs it on Braum, but not this game. So spellbook nerfs have largely led to less of them, but not to the tune of 0. Very different in this particular game.
Another interesting thing is we've got Mowgli going in for the Aftershock instead of the fleet footwork that we've seen a whole lot more just recently, based on how the passive works. You've explained this one a few times, Papa, but Mowgli deciding that he wants to have as much tankiness as possible, especially early on.
It's going to be the attack speed and overheal in the precision tree coming through for Untara. We know what he wants to do. He wants to whack away with his big troll hammer and try to take people down with his club.
Yep, just clubbing people to death. It's the troll way of life.
It is.
I like it.
Is it Earth the Manatee, Corky?
I'm just getting really... I'm glad you mentioned skins, because that's exactly
It
where I
is!
was going. Oh, it is.
He can club a seal to death.
Oh, no!
Let's be real, he's going to be... Oh, Flash!
Yeah, Flash is going to come in. Good knockup comes down from Blossom, all too easy. Level 4 gank comes down from the Jarvan, and Faker is going to help out. Mowgli's here, but he's here a little bit too late.
Beautifully decisive as well. That was a mini bouncy castle of a different construction. No ability for Kuro to flash. He falls down, can teleport back to lane, but that was clean, and also a salvo from Blossom, who was largely a passenger in game 1.
Yeah, both of the junglers actually, not a lot of pressure on them in the early game. Santara going to put down some frozen ground. Yeah, SKT back with a vengeance. 600 gold now is going to be the total advantage they picked up from that. And we know that if Blossom can have the front foot lead as far as these matchups, he's feeling real good, as Faker once again lands the Aftershock shock as well to get as much damage as possible.
It's another different rune on the Galio.
Yeah.
It's the Aftershock, as Blossom takes no mistakes when it comes to the flag and drags. Basically, every time he sees one, he eyes one and goes in.
Yep. Going in is something that we've never really said that Blossom's had any problem with.
True.
Going in at the wrong time, a couple of times maybe, but going in's better than not in most cases. I really like it when he is on one of these more high-pressure junglers in the early game. Jarvan looking brilliant so far in this game.
But the Aftershock Galio is all about going for full AP build, but also having the resist during the W. It's, of course, very easy for a Galio to proc the Aftershock, given how much CC he actually puts down, and then will be inherently tanky there. So it's a different take. We've seen a lot of different Galio Keystone runes. We've seen Electrocute. We've even seen poke-based builds and the Unsealed Spellbook. But this time, all about those earlier ultimates where the flat resist is going to be so powerful on the already AP stacking Galio, as Blossom's just hunting for a boar. It's boar hunting season, apparently.
Yeah.
For
feels
the
like
Jarvan.
an Asterix comic right now.
It does.
That's sorry guys, that's going way back in time, but a lot of boar hunting happened in that particular set of books. As Keen's going to come in and help out. Mowgli at about 400 health. With the help of his lumberjack friend in the jungle, he's going to be okay. Bit of an engagement towards the bottom side, as Wolf not going to be able to find the trample proc.
The coolest thing about what Blossom's doing is, even before level 6 on Galio, he's using EQ off cooldown when he sees the enemy jungler. Then the ultimate comes, and he'll just have a gargoyle riding on his back looking for those kills. So, the thing we always talk about with Galio is it empowers counter jungling. Blossom doesn't need any help. He always has the mindset to counter jungle, but now the kill registration, if Mowgli ever has to blow his flash, is going to be there as well.
Yeah, and now that we've got Tiamat picked up by Untara as well, you're going to have lane priority on the top side of the map. You should be able to keep Keen shoved in underneath this turret.
Lane priority, invading with Blossom on the red side jungle, and the threat of the Galio joining means basically a free top side of the map to SKT. That means that Trundle has nothing to respect, can just go as aggressive as he wants, maybe even get the auto cancels on the turret, and just wants to play his natural game. So controlling the top side jungle for SK Telecom T1 gives them so many bonuses. The more safety for Untara to 1v1 lane, the better.
Yeah, and I really like the priority on the Varus here as well, because it does mean that it can challenge the Kalista and her lane dominance that she has had so often, and when the bottom lane is going to be largely ignored given SKT's current playstyle, it is great to be able to have some just inherent power down there. So they are being able to push relatively far forward, and you can see that with the vision that they've been able to put down the enemy topside jungle. That Brambleback is something that Mowgli does not want to head towards.
One of the few games where I think if Varus had been banned, something like a Caitlyn would have been preferred by Bang instead of the Ezreal, just to have a bit more lane control if topside is going to be the early visit, and just a bit more safety when it comes to wave clear, because the turret being pushed down bot lane is kind of the only possible bad news story for how the game's going so far. It's Interrupt, actually, on the ultimate.
Yeah, going to put the trophy down, and Tara, he has one of those, I believe, in the back pocket. May not have been in the game when they won it, but certainly still going to have one. Is Decimating Smash going to be avoided, and Keen has to be careful.
It does confirm that the trophy, or the pillar, is actually counted as terrain, so just like hitting a wall on the Scion drifting, it does interrupt him, so has to be much more accountable in lane. Can't disengage lane trades if they go badly for the Scion. So a pick against Scion we haven't seen, but one that clearly does have a lot of merit.
Yeah, now you've got Untara and Blossom both able to set up terrain that Keen's going to have to worry about, and the Cataclysm and the Pillar of Filth of old, or the Frozen Pillar now.
Yeah, Pillar of Filth was such a good name.
It was so good. And he also had Junkyard Trundle, which had the best splash art in the game.
I just call it Pillar because Pillar of Ice is so boring.
I know, I just call it Pillar of Filth because it used to be so good.
I mean, to be fair, we did that with Rat-a-tat-tat, calling up Spray and Pray, and they just changed it back, so who knows? Maybe we need to stick to our guns, Atlas.
Yeah, here we go. How are we supposed to ever negotiate if we just concede every time?
First they took my Spray and Pray, and I said nothing.
Yeah, I'm gonna raise that at our union meeting. We're gonna have... That's just let's not go there. Blossom and Faker just gonna be able to grab that blue buff, give it over to the Gargoyle Man, who's almost got the Rod of Ages done. Be about a 10-minute Rod of Ages as well for Faker as well. He continues picking up all of this farm, so feeling pretty good about that. There's another taunt. Kuro going to take a whole host of damage.
Yeah, it wasn't a trade there. Only on the back end does it actually become a damage trade.
Yep. Feels a bit like how trades with Gnar work, as the package is going to be baited out. Kuro definitely didn't want to get hit.
I love that it has a fixed distance because it looks comical. He would have been happy to jump shorter as in the mid lane.
Faker looking like he's in a bit of trouble. The Glacial Prison is going to land, and that is going to be the dead Gargoyle. And Afreeca, they answer it back. Same situation in the mid lane as Blossom is going to be the one to turn up a little bit late this time.
Look at this rotation.
Oh my goodness, could this actually be the tower falling down as well? They've got a siege minion here, and Mowgli's going to turn up. The Demolish proc helping out as well, and with double AD carry, that's first brick in the mid lane at 10 minutes in.
And when you rotate at the same time as a successful gank happens, you double down on the win. Huge momentum change here for Afreeca after SKT had got vertical jungling going for Untara, and mid lane trades were going so well for Faker. Faker this time walks up too far, is taken out at the same time. Kuro picks up a kill involvement and his colors cashed in alongside first turret. So Trinity Force on this back guaranteed. Things go from better to better for the side of Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, 10-minute Trinity Force feels brilliant. Mountain Drake is on the rift here as well, and Afreeca might be thinking about grabbing that one, but at 11 minutes in, you start to fear the entrance of a terrifying Galio from the mid lane.
You do, but unfortunately this Galio, the fear is going to be lower because there's going to be less lingering doubt. You can lane ward against the Galio very easily now that he has no turret. He's going to be much more accountable when the minion waves are pushed in down mid. So Galio going missing should be very early information to the side of Afreeca to be able to know which side of the jungle he's on. We know he's bot side, and he just shows up, says hello, and continues to back off. They want to take a counter turret, stop there being a scenario like Jinair faced, where they took 2 turrets top side with the Trundle, but lost the rest of the map. So they need to double down. They want to win somewhere, and all Trundle has in the top side is parity with the Zion.
Yeah, we'll see what Keen's actually going to pick up. He has the Glacial Shard at the moment, but Wolf is going to get engaged on momentarily. Tucson takes about half his health bar as Bang throws down the Chains of Corruption. A lot of sticks into the cow, and Bang as well going to be punished.
You know what the coolest thing about that trade was?
What's the coolest thing?
That was a trade without backup from the jungle. That was just feigning aggression from the side of Afreeca. I feel like new bot laners don't do that nearly enough. They play too respectfully. It's good to see him walk up, take a hard trade. There was no kill potential because no one else was there to crash on them, but just raising the doubts for Bang and Wolf in the bot.
Keen now forced to farm underneath this turret. Roar the Slayer going to help him out there, and thankfully, as the Scion, he's going to be able to clear out those creeps pretty quick. So not having to worry about Antaro just dirty farming behind him or anything like that. Yeah, I like how aggressive the bottom lane's been from the Afreeca Freecs. Last game was no exception as well. You saw aiming's damage to champions, highest in the game on the Xayah. Wanting to continue putting aggression down.
Can't see the turret health. Only now takes his first demolish proc. Faker walking up to try to zone for that, but that early information, Afreeca just goes straight onto the Mountain Drake. They have a lot of Baron secure with the Rend later. This is a free one for them.
Yeah, Keen's back was stopped earlier on there as well, so he's going to go back to base, buys the Frozen Heart. He's going to ask you whether or not the Iceborne Gauntlet is worth a thought, but not going to be the case. Just going to grab this one instead. Just thought any extra wave clear is a good idea against the Trundle, making sure that he doesn't get any free chomps down onto the turret.
I gotta admit, I get a little chill in my spine every time I hear the Scion ult, because it is actually scary compared to, say, the Cannon Barrage, where it's very easy to identify.
It does depend on, you know, your experience with the Cannon Barrages as well. You know, if you've recently watched Saving Private Ryan, it's scary.
I know what you're saying, but I think of Nocturne ult and Scion ult as similarly chilling.
Oh, yeah, that's
Imagine
true.
if Nocturne was ulting back to lane, how anticlimactic that would be.
If only you could ult, you could use Paranoia on your teammates or something.
Or even on the minion wave.
Oh, brilliant. That would be... Can we change that?
No.
Another petition. Maybe we're getting too excited. Tucson wants to go back home, and blind, Bang is going to stop that back.
Knew his last known positions. That was as much about checking as it was denying a back. SKT a couple of times have tried to take this turret. Very standard play with the Galio, because of course EQ in, extra attack speed, and a Gargoyle should zone them off turret. Faker walks over a wall. This is all pretty clear. What's the reaction going to be?
Yep, pile-in strategy, pretty understandable one as aiming's going down extraordinarily low. Blossom picks up the kill in the end as the flash is used by Bang, but Crow, he's turned up, the package is down. Has to use the flash to get out of the way of the Cataclysm. Now SKT behind enemy lines, and Blossom takes a lot of damage, mostly from that package. Should mean that this tower is going to fall down, and Afreeca not going to be able to answer anything elsewhere, given the fact that Antara is pushing so well on the top side.
They had early information to back away. They chose not to. Kuro's teleport completed a little bit late to actually be able to turn around and salvage aiming's life. And then Kuro actually was interrupted out of the Valkyrie by the Jarvan ultimate, so wasn't able to use it, had to flash. An extra summoner, they didn't want to give up. Speaking of not wanting to give things up, Mowgli just trying to stop there being a counter macro play on the top side. The Rift Herald will be interrupted, at least for now.
Yeah, Rift Scuttler taken down as well, so that Mowgli will have vision if Blossom decides to head over there. Now with blue buff available, Faker and Blossom turn up, and they're a bit like the Bash Brothers at the moment, if anyone's watched any Mighty Ducks recently. Just hand in hand, getting the kills where they can. 100% kill contribution for both of them, and Blossom actually picking up both of those kills. Actually feels brilliant, just given Blossom's playstyle. If he's strong enough to be able just to fight anyone, feels really good if you're an SKT fan.
And again, you made the parallels to the previous game, and in the draft, they're certainly there. There will reach a time in this game where it feels like Afreeca will have a lot of options with their two scaling ADs, but because they're Corki and Callista again, with all the AoE zone control from Jarvan, Galio, and even Alistar, the backline threat available to SKT. It's not quite the Zac, it's not quite the same level of just pure extended zone control, but it's enough threat that if aiming, just like Bang, is zoned out of damage, that Afreeca just might not be able to fight in the way that their draft really requires.
Yeah, and it feels like as well, Wolf is on a bit of a more all-in version of the Rakan there as well, so still going to be able to get exactly the same work done as far as entering towards the back line, and Faker has a free ride to get down as well. Bit of cow riding to be done as Blossom going in once again. Kuro's going to have to try and find a Valkyrie, does it, and there's the flash after him by Faker. Aiming turns up, and will they actually be able to get the kill? Blossom going down extremely low. Kuro lasts so long, but Faker grabs it with the Winds of War, and now everyone makes their way out. It's just Kuro falling, and SKT, that was beautiful.
Yeah, smooth exit from Blossom means they don't go 1-for-1. The Hyper Pulverize required, and this is what SKT want to do again and again. Whereas Afreeca had to rotate as a 5-man unit, they want to be able to do it as a 4, while Trundle is able to split push, and the bonus objective they get from that kill will be the Rift Herald.
Yeah, a bit of punishment here by SKT to start things off, just basically doing exactly what Afreeca did to them in the last game, but Faker not scared to use that flash.
No flash available for Kuro, and can't buy enough distance going over with the Valkyrie. Blossom falls low, but doesn't want to take an extra spear, or the potential for a Rand to snipe from Faker to pick up the kill, and they get the second objective from it. So nice stuff from SKT, and what you will see probably rinse and repeat this game from them, unless a Baron or something can be picked up for Afreeca. Keep it as a 4v4, keep the Trundle and the Scion as far away from the team fight as possible, and then with so much backline threat, be able to take down one of the carriers, and thus the team of AFreeca Freecs.
Well, still relatively early days, 18 minutes into this game, and the lead is nowhere near solidified for SKT. With the Rift Herald, with no turret, with only one turret to fall down for both sides, you could imagine that using this skirmish-based composition at around when it's powerful, SKT should be able to push this one forward.
Swan is jungling around bot side, which should actually just give up the turret top side. She had been jungling top side. They could have looked for a couple of defensive plays, but those are also the sort of plays that can get you into a bigger hole just around the time that Baron spawns. So they go for the ultra defensive play. That means their bot lane turret, sorry, top lane turret actually lost even less time than AFreeca Freecs took down SKT's in the previous games. SKT a bit ahead of the clock. It was, what, 24 minutes when mid lane turret went down. That's the goal now. Find a way to rotate around mid lane. A little bit more difficult when mid lane turret for SKT was the first to fall. But SKT, for now at least, running the pace of the game in the 4-man grouping that they look to do.
Yeah, really nicely done so far. Grogu's going to try and farm himself up, looking for that rapid-fire cannon as item number 2, much like all of our Corkies recently have been doing. And Blossom still hungry for blood. He just seems untiltable, Blossom. Like, he can go through as many misplays as possible, but he's still ready to flag and drag his way into any decision at any moment afterwards.
And I think for the SKT lineup that he was drafted into, that's his best quality, is that he has an aggressive mindset. SKT were lacking that. Blank and Otara in the roster as 2 more role players really were hurting SKT. They bring an aggressive jungler with youthful exuberance who doesn't take a mistake as a reason to adjust his playstyle. He'll keep initiating. We saw his Jarvan in the first series where he EQ'd into a 0 and died as Faker watched kind of on in horror. Yeah. That didn't stop him. He went in and he engaged again. He battle-warded again. He needs to be that kind of player for this roster because kind of foreign to a lot of the other players, but they backed him up in a great fashion as well, and it's made SKT one of the most decisively aggressive teams in the LCK, when that has never been their MO since maybe 2013 when SK Telecom T1, Team 2 first came online.
Yeah. It's all been about controlled aggression and just the word control, basically. It equates to SKT. It's why they've been so consistent over the years. But 4-match winning streak with this let's just kill everyone style certainly means that you can't fault them for it. There's a big flash coming in from Susan. Okay.
Interrupting the Rift Herald there. So use his flash to pull this one off. They want to keep this mid lane turret as long as possible, but SKT still want it, and they can threaten with the Galio.
Yeah, and actually they get the flash for free if they are going to be able to pick up this turret. But there's the Glacial Prison. Tucson going to get stunned up, but the front line is just getting decimated. Mowgli, no chance to get out. Hero's entrance is in as well, but Blossom, he's going to be taken out by the Rend. Faker needs to exit as there's a Scion in the back line, and Keen's just going to get melted. The zombie is going to get dealt with as well, and the Afreeca Freecs, they have to be careful because they can get turned on again. Still, the tower is going to survive for the moment, but are they going to be able to get back under? No. Backdoor bonus going to be enough. And SKT have to make their way out, but again, another great fight.
A big investment from Afreeca to interrupt the Rift Herald being summoned. If they can hold the turret here, it'll be worth it, but unfortunately the rest of their members have to recall. They give a kill trade, and eventually the mid lane turret only delayed about 30 seconds. In the end, it isn't worth it. SKT has so much insurance when they try to fight under a turret that only Sion being there when Trundle didn't rotate was the way they could hold it. Very smart headbutt by Wolf was that the passenger play we saw was the contaminate from Untara, the ultimate, into the headbutt into the team on the Sion. He's not tanky any longer. He goes down, and that means that the defensive mid lane turret ends for the side of Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, that subjugate is so incredibly good from Untara against the Sion. Sion builds so many of those resists. It was one of the old counters when Sion first made his way into the meta as a tank on the top side of the map a couple of years ago. And is still going to be absolutely brilliant. Maybe he's going to look for Blossom. He may actually get slowed down. He has to flag and drag his way out. First time I've seen him use that defensively so far this game.
I was going to make the same joke, so I'm glad we're on the same page. Kuro has 2.5 items, so just kind of runs at Faker, but doesn't have the map control on his red side to chase any further.
Yeah, Amy's got a couple of his items as well. But if we learn anything from the last series, it's if SKT can continue on this clip as far as the aggression, they should be able to snowball out of control before these hyper carries come online. And I guess we're mainly talking about Kuro this game when it comes to that.
We should talk about where Afreeca's comp is different to that of SKT's.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Do note that Mowgli's on the Sejuani. Skarner basically could never use the ultimate in the previous game because he would just die in the AoE zone or allow the Galio to initiate. Sejuani from range can either interrupt a carry or try to disengage with the ultimate. So engaging at this point in the game is pretty unlikely unless they heavily outnumber SKT. Realistically, he has more of a role to play in teamfights because he can just throw out the ult defensively. So at least in terms of that pick, it provides more value to Afreeca.
Well, Last Cone going to be pretty useful here for the Afreeca Freecs to make an exit, but Blossom continuing to try and go in. Basically 1 versus 3 at that particular point. Keen grabs the blue buff. That's the dream.
It's a little win there. Nothing massive, but something to slow down the Trundle. Afreeca all about the Baron defense.
Feels like damage control almost completely here for Afreeca, just wanting to hold on for as long as possible.
They need time. They need the Infinity Edge on the Corki and for things to go their way. It's why SKT buying time didn't even lead to any victories for them in a meaningful fashion, but that's all Afreeca can aspire to. If you leave the Galio open, this is very often the cadence of a game. It can be turned around against SKT multiple times this season. It has, but not when Blossom has been on the roster.
Not a lot has been turned around whilst Blossom has been on the roster, to be honest.
Just a handful of game losses, no match losses in the 4 that he's been present. Also coincides with their 4-match win streak.
Yep, only lost once on the Jarvan as well. And you best believe he did a lot of work that game. 2, 8, and 11 in that loss on the Jarvan. So he was still happy to go in. Didn't matter. Now they're looking for a Brambleback. It's a decent taunt to stop Kuro, though, in the package once again. Has to be used defensively.
And Kuro's super chunked out after that. We'll have to move back and potentially teleport. Yeah, what invitation does SKT need to start the Baron? They don't have Kalista for secure. There's no Cho'Gath in the game either. They do have good Baron damage on the side of SKT, and they're actually pulling up Untara. So for once, he's not going to be in a side lane. Might even be looking for a pick here.
Yeah, Tucson going to be able to stand behind aiming, though, get himself out of there. SKT throwing trophies around just feels so great, you know, it's exactly what they need to be doing. Is there's a Glacial Prison, but it's going to be turned around. Afreeca, you should know about this strategy, and they do. They managed to disengage effectively. That's 2 cooldowns now taken away. Make it 1. The hero's entrance is the main thing that they were trying to get out.
Don't get any flashes, SK Telecom making that play either. So that means that a pretty important cooldown for turning off the Baron is gone. That means Baron threat is much lower. And that is the sort of thing that will buy Afreeca time that the Flash ultimate to interrupt the Rift Herald was not able to do.
Yeah, now you've got Kuro. He's 1,300 gold approximately away from that Infinity Edge. And unlike what Faker was experiencing, as it was a 7,000 gold lead that he had to look down the barrel of when he got his 3rd item to make the Corki really strong. It's only about 2,400 gold here for SKT as far as that lead. So Kuro's going to be feeling pretty good once that item is done. He's going to come over and try and get a little bit mad at Faker, who takes a lot of damage from the Baron and the Corki. Feels like revenge.
As it is the Trundle, getting deep vision down into the red side jungles, only for information, not for a flanking teleport. Wolf also has the Aftershock, so no Ignar-inspired Alistair shenanigans with the Righteous Glory. It's going to be much more linear, much more in your face from the side of SKT this game.
Yeah, and aiming actually changing things up here on the Callister as well. If we look over the side
Rage
of Afreeca. Yeah, Rageblade to come in as third item was very popular a few moons ago. It's going to make a little bit of a resurgence here.
So it's a more risky build because you don't have the double lifesteal that Bang had very early, but you're going to put so many spears into just whoever you can auto. If you get the Dream Q and can actually push it onto a carry, perhaps you can do relevant damage to the backline in a great spot. And if you can just stack it up, who knows how much threat you can do to the front line as well. So it's a different take, but it does mean that now he's 2,000 gold away from his next completion.
Think about Mowgli Kuro aiming three-man Baron. That is going to go down extraordinarily fast.
I think you're thinking too many steps ahead because given the comp they're against, how do you actually get Baron control against SKT with Wombo engaged? SKT right on command say, let's start the Baron and see what happens.
Yeah, they're pretty good at grabbing the Baron control. AFreeca Freecs are going to show them that they're there, and they're not going to want to opt in to any 50-50s, as Mowgli's not going to be able to get zoned away. But yeah, I'm glad that SKT are ready to prove your point pretty much as it happens.
I think a build like you see from aiming this game wasn't possible for Bang last game. It's not his style, but more because the game was at a faster pace that he felt like he needed to inch together relevant items. And again, it isn't trivial that you have to spend 2,000 gold from here to actually get a meaningful item purchase. So aiming, honestly, if you're SKT, you see that, you say, let's just start Baron a couple of times because the enemy AD carry is going to take a lot of shops to actually get where he wants to be.
Yep. You can see Faker and Kuro just sharing some Krug camp as in goes Blossom once again. It's a heroic entrance opportunity here as Tucson is going to throw down the ult just for the disengage once again. And Afreeca, they're very good at being able to be prepared to turn around if the hero's entrance comes in.
And they're really good at not giving away flashes. None of these plays are getting defensive flashes. Tucson could ult and then just use his W. So they're in a position to contest. Baron down to 7,000. SKT rolling the dice again, but there's the full disengage.
Yeah, and Blossom actually down to about a 5th health there as well. So the Jarvan, not entirely sure whether he has his Warmogs yet, but yes he does, because look at all of that health come back. He's going to be A-OK, but feels good for the Afreeca Freecs knowing that the J4 is fellable.
While the pillar we see is very, very useful against the Scion, Arctic Assault, the Valkyrie, aiming just being generally slippy, and the W from Tucson means that everyone else isn't going to be actually picked if the Trundle groups and is going to be throwing out the Pillar of Ice. So a lot of options available.
Pillar of Filth, Papa, remember.
I know.
Faker's going to go in though. Unstoppable Onslaught is going to be utilized as Wolf.
Who do you think you are, Wolf?
Not able to set anything up there. Coward is going to be yelled though, and that means that that one is on cooldown.
I'm sure SKT are wondering how they haven't gotten a flash from now 3 or 4 attempts to peel off the Baron. They're still not safe enough to start Baron. This is definitely frustrating them. They've actually called Untara mid or towards Baron 3 or 4 times to actually get this Baron play to work. And the only real way for them to advance is to actually fight around the Baron. That's Wolf looking for the headbutt.
Okay, Mowgli going to hop into the pit. There's the first flash that they're able to pick up. Nicely done. Didn't want to risk it for the Arctic Assault. As in goes Blossom this time, actually gets the flash, traps a couple inside the Cataclysm, and there's the entrance as well.
Kuro.
But Blossom going down solo, Kuro safe on the outside, and they haven't picked up any kills. Tucson tanking all of the damage. There are so many Ren stacks in the Galio, and Afreeca Freecs somehow just weather the storm completely.
Really nice position from Kuro to be relevant in that fight. Aiming may have been zoned out, but there will be no zoning onto Kuro. Able to chunk out a couple of members. Notice that aiming does pick up his Rage Blade on that back as well. So massive buy for him. Over 2,000 gold is spent. The only flashes are on Scion, Sejuani, and Tucson. Crucially, Kuro and aiming have theirs as Wolf is on a mission here.
Yep. Cow's going to get the headbutt pulve as in goes Tucson. They're going to slow down the engage, and Kuro once again off to the side, finding some safety after the gap close has been removed, and Wolf has to be careful. Afreeca Freecs.
This is really tense stuff, Atlas.
Yeah.
Their defense of the Baron has been categorically better than SKT, who opted into a couple too many Wombo knockout parties in Game 1. They're able also to buy enough space for aiming to shop. Again, you see the items, you say, this guy really will need to go for a big shop. He won't be able to stick around forever around a Baron dance. Let's start Baron and eventually they'll make a mistake. Their mistake hasn't really come. The shops have been completed, and now there's no guarantee where if SKT don't get any threat onto Amy and Kuro, Afreeca just don't win a team fight.
Yeah. It is really nice to see Afreeca Freecs really turning things around from what was relatively disappointing as far as quality of play against Kingzone when we saw them fall down 1-2. We're expecting a lot from that series, but this one has been an Afreeca Freecs that just knows exactly what to do in each situation, despite the fact that they are still behind.
How heartening is it that it's an Afreeca Freecs without Spirit and without Kramer, with much less experience, and they're still able to approximate previous Afreeca performances in some places, maybe even be cleaner. Of course, not many people in the world have been convinced by 10-man squads about having two different strings of players who can play, and Afreeca have been very conservative till now to actually roll the dice. But credit to the subs when they're coming in. They're not awed by facing SK Telecom T1. They're playing their part, and if they can actually field most of a 10-man roster, it gives them lots of unique options that, until the day, an enemy team can't be ready for.
And now double QSS is completed as well for the carries, as there's another Cataclysmic entrance to come down, but the disengage is pretty much perfect. Re-engage comes in from Mowgli, exactly. Glacial Prison comes down, but the Fate's Call saves everyone. A Ren stack is going to have to be pulled out, but no, it's Kuro that grabs that kill. Decimating Smash for the knock-up. Oh, Faker, he's found his way into the mid, but he's just going to get taken out. It's a double for Kuro. Big knock-ups from SKT as they're trying to turn it around yet again, and the zombie is now into the front line. But Antara happy to tank that one up, and bang, gets the double kill back. It's 2 for 2, and this game is neck and neck.
The adjustments seem to be working for the side of Afreeca. The different build with the Rage Blade, and also the ability to always disengage the hero's entrance means they are going even, and theoretically the game only gets better for Afreeca. There is flash down on aiming, so there is a target on the Callista for the next fight. But if we don't have flashes down on Kuro and aiming, they're putting out way more damage than Bang and Faker were able to in the previous game.
Yeah, and I just have to once again make a massive shout out to Kuro, because this guy, we know that he's struggled so many times against Faker. These team fights have looked so good for him. On the Corki, they looked great when he was playing the Galio as well.
And it's seeming more and more as we see Kuro prove himself first in 2017 on Afreeca, and now in 2018, that he kind of had a bit of a thankless role on the Rocks Tigers. He definitely made mistakes. He definitely wasn't the star of that team. But so often his job was to laser the backline minions, to push the wave, and then Peanut would be the star, going for counter junk. Smeb would be a double MVP. He had a role to play. It wasn't flashy, but largely it succeeded. Only against Faker did his lack of playing for the 1-for-1, 1v1 really get punished. Now he really is able to flex. He is actually the primary carry in multiple games, and he's doing a very good job of impressing us with his play for himself. His selfish play and his selfless play are pretty much on equal levels, and that's a compliment to Kuro.
Yeah, and now he's the man with the most CS in the game as well. Aiming actually keeping up very well at the same time. This is the position that Faker was in, but Afreeca Freecs keeping things within 2,000 gold, approximately 3 at this stage. Yes, SKT have a few more options in the split push as well, so it's a different story as far as how this game works in comparison to Game 1. But still, Afreeca going to be much happier than SKT were at 35 minutes, if we even got there in Game 1.
And it's really tilting to split push against the Scion, as we'll hold the point.
Yeah, another fight to break out. Chains of Corruption did come in as they're looking for Faker. Not going to get too many taunts. The Unstoppable Onslaught right into the front line. Bang throws out the ult eventually. And Keen is going to be able to flash his way out. They've been doing so well with the disengage, re-engage coming in from Afreeca, and Keen saves himself. He doesn't get taken down to the passive and taken out.
Faker was able to channel his W the entire time, so even going heavy on AP, no threat onto Faker. Once again, be close to high health. Tucson could get engaged on.
Yep, Kuro is going to be here to answer some damage back, but the package brings him all the way out of the fight, and Tucson has to flash to keep himself alive. Afreeca have been fighting around this particular area, it feels like all game. SKT holding onto their health bars and feeling good.
Afreeca's Baron defense. A Baron defense, and all they can get on a successful attempt is another flash. They're not getting 3 at the same time unless SKT are also investing very heavily. They could not really find any good use of the hero's entrance in that particular fight. So we rinse and repeat. The game not swinging the way of SKT in a meaningful way. In the side lane, Scion's just able to roar away the cannon minions, just in general, push up the minion wave, and also has enough CC to halt the advance from Trundle. It only gets better with every future item for the Trundle. When it comes to the speed of the split push actually being relevant, it's taking so long because Sion is doing Sion things.
Yeah, Faker obviously needed a certain item on his next back. Wonder whether he can afford a Rabbidan's Death Cap or something like that. See what he's going to turn this easily large rod into. Picks up the blue buff and will just head back home. Sitting on 2.5k, so I think that might be Rabbidan's.
1,700 gold behind
There it is.
the Corki, but that's because of Cull cashing in and Corki doing his best impression of what Faker did in Game 1 and piling on the CS.
Piling on the control wards as well. Thank you very much, Observer, for letting us know. Shout out to our Observer over the last few days. It's been a joy to work with.
He's finding interesting things in a meta that sometimes drags on, so we appreciate that. SKT, again, want to kill anyone. They know Tusen's flash is down. By the time we fight, Aiming should have his flashback available. So Afreeca so far have been really resolute on the defense, not actually allow someone to be caught in any sort of wombo engage.
Zeke's Convergence coming in for the Braum here as well, Papa.
Yep.
So just making sure that Aiming can get as much work done that he can. Bang, of course, went for the Bloodthirster in game number 1 as his third item. Now we've got Rageblade into the Last Whisper for Aiming.
Braum is usually not a good Zeke's user because his ult is about being more
you actually explained
opportunistic.
that yesterday, right?
But in this particular game, the fight only starts when SKT piles in, so you will be using the Braum ultimate very early in a team fight, so you will get the maximum duration out of Zeke's that in different team comps, the Zeke's would be a pretty useless item on the Braum.
Yeah. Bang, the KDA God continuing to have a fantastic KDA this game. 5 out of 7 is going to be his kill contribution thus far.
Still hasn't died, but his team, of course, lost game 1 without any kill involvement from Bang. Looking for the pick.
Not going to be able to find the ultimate here as well as Bang is going to go wide with the Chains of Corruption, and Tusen, they're focusing on the flashless target. Faker is going to turn up, and Tusen just gives himself up for the Ghost. He will be taken out. Takes him a long time. Tusen. The exhaust is actually going to be invested. That might have been a mistake.
Does allow Sion and Callista to get out of base. Tusen wasn't given a W because Galio was there to corral him and stop Corki from walking up and allowing the Stand Beside Me to be used to actually give him an escape when his flash was down. So finally a successful pick. Even though it's only Tusen, SKT have to start the Baron, but there's a nice cheeky ward here that does give them extra information.
Well, I don't know whether there is enough information actually.
Especially if it's a 2-man. If they can just 2-man this all the way down, it is actually out of vision of the ward.
Yeah, and Blossom seems to be able to tank this up
They
for
know
long
it now.
enough.
They know it
now
now.
they're going to be able to find it, but it's all too late. It's going to be taken out. SKT with a beautiful Baron sneak, and the crowd goes ballistic here in the Soli Stadium. SKT, this is the first notable lead that they've had thus far and will be able to start crashing turrets.
What a cheeky vision play around a very commonly placed defensive ward that is not spotted by most vision wards. Only the one Baron attack actually revealed it, and it was too late for them to walk up. So with Tusen dead, even the little lingering doubt from Afreeca couldn't be confirmed because they didn't have someone extra to put down a ward. And SKT get the Baron. It's 15 minutes later than they would have liked, but it is the objective they need to actually cement the split push power of the Trundle.
Well, Keen is trying to say what he can about that particular split push as he's going to head down with a whole bunch of items and start clearing out minion waves as best he can. Kuro with the package armed, looking for an opportunity, but the Brambleback will be taken out as Faker does have to press his W pretty much straight away, because Kuro needs to be respected with 5 items on the Corki, waiting for his Mercurial Scimitar to come in to really complement this build.
And they break the base on this Baron. They could attempt an all-in with the Hero's Entrance zone away and have the Varus push up, but if Varus not autoing, the turret damage is melee range. So watching here as we go on, is not much happening in the side lane. We're not going to show it to you guys.
Yep, cute little interruption there onto the Decimating Smash, showing that Antara is going to be able to keep his minions alive for at least a little while. He's just going to be charging it as often as he possibly can.
Trundle just wants the minions to actually crash on the turret, but Sion wanted the best to interrupt that. So I'm going to start giving up the easy objectives, though.
Yeah, now the Unstoppable Onslaught comes in, package delivered to Antara, but the Hero's Entrance comes down. Subjugate doing so much work, giving Antara his health back, and Mowgli has to be so careful. Faker gets
dead.
the flash, he's going to pick up the kill onto the Sejuani. Kuro was trying to get damage back over to the side, but it doesn't matter, and the base is getting destroyed. SKT fighting on multiple fronts, and they will break the base, and they should get an inhibitor as well.
They were able to pick up the kill because Q from Faker full AP did so much damage, and in the disarray,
Jeepers.
Target's going to go down bot side to demolish and just trundle. They're looking for a second turret here. This is the play that was denied to them for 15 minutes, but it's decisive right now.
Yeah, really nice stuff. SKT pulling the trigger. We knew with Blossom on the squad, they're much better at doing that, but finally found their opportunity. The most adorable Baron sneak, and then 2 inhibitors taken down at 42 minutes into the game. May not have been as clean as Afreeca in game 1, but it's a 10k gold lead, and SKT are looking brilliant to pick up game 2 and bring us to a game 3 that we all wanted here in the stadium right now.
Mowgli still has flash. I would imagine that was up for the previous fight. Didn't use it and was just chunked out. Assertive move by Faker, got the first kill and allowed the rest of this to happen. He does so much damage. I'm gonna watch the replay. Yes, Sejuani, flash is available. Oh, we censored it for a second there. We're gonna go back to the replay. Notice how much damage the Q does. He does literally 15 to 1800 damage onto Mowgli and just kills him straight up. So they had vision of the Sejuani. Need to be a bit quicker there, Mowgli, to disengage. And then everything rolls on, and the base is broken in 2 spots.
Yeah, even the taunt did so much damage to Mowgli when it finished him off. He just doesn't have a lot of defensive stats. He has no magic resist at all. So the Sejuani is just all health. Big meat shield in the front line, and you can see that's a big health bar, but health bars don't mean a whole lot when you don't have any of these resists. And that is a 6-item Faker who just managed to go back and grab that Void Staff, so even if the magic resist is picked up, it's still going to be a problem.
Gold lead out of nowhere is cemented at 10,000. The carries have their items, 6 items on the Corki and the Kalista. So if the wrong fight is taken by SKT, there could be a turnaround. But the Hero's Entrance piles in. They kill the front line. It doesn't matter how much damage the back line can do. And already the zone is, here's the wombo!
Yeah, is it even worth it? As there's the Hero's Entrance, the double knockup. The front line doesn't really look like a front line right now, as Tusen's going to go down first. The Cow doing so much work in the back line. There's another knockup. It's a double kill for Bang. There's heaps of them going down. 4 members of Afreeca dead. Kuro watches on in horror as the rest of his teammates melt around him. And SKT will be able to cement their victory. Very similar to what Afreeca did in game 1. And we're going to have a deciding match. Will the Galio get banned? I'm not sure, but SKT look brilliant and will have momentum moving into game 3.
It took them a long time to pick up the Baron, but their execution post-Baron cannot be denied. Fantastic close by SK Telecom T1. 2 games in a row were reminded that Kalista against tanky opposition cannot output the damage. The Kalista goes down, the Corki is zoned, and SK Telecom T1 pick up the victory, but now they're on red side. You have to think Galio will be banned in game 3. Maybe we'll get the best of 1 that is different to how the first games have gone, because the cadence very similar for the Afreeca win and the SKT win. The Afreeca win more decisive, the SKT win more explosive at the end with a lovely combo with the flag and drag into the Hero's Entrance. But now we find ourselves all tied up in a single game to decide if Afreeca can do the double over SKT in spring season, or if SKT's renaissance continues with a 5th map win.
Yeah, and I feel like momentum on their side. Have to talk about Blossom. The first blood was fantastic. Level 4 on the Jarvan, setting Faker up to win trades in the mid lane. And when Faker is set up for success, you know you're feeling good as an SKT fan. He's doing so much damage as well with the particular build that he went for. SKT able to utilize the Galio. Galio looking like he's a pretty busted champion so far in this particular series. Will it mean he hits the bench? I feel like we're going to be seeing a very, very different game as we head to game number 3. But guys, it's going to be a short break. When we get back, the deciding match between SKT and Afreeca Freecs.